us though. Like, to be very clear.
They can see us, and then here you can now see yourself. Turn those lights off. We're good. We got it.
I like that we went with like, man, before sight. Oh, or like before sound, let's do sight.
I gotta say here, because the chat's right here. Here's chat.
No, it's not. Oh, I see what you're saying.
See?
Yes.
Chat's gonna
Yes, chat is gonna.
Hi, everybody.
Here to other side.
Hi. We haven't done the thing that we're supposed to do, which is tweet a selfie of us.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're
Want your
just-
selfie, and then I will retweet it.
Yeah. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're adorable.
We are.
We're super cute. Hi, everyone. I was late, and so Claudia couldn't
I
do
was
her
also
makeup.
late.
So therefore, it's my fault that we are starting slightly late.
But that's okay because we also got a little, like, we got coffee. I wasn't gonna be able to get coffee because I was like, oh no,
True.
I had to schedule an interview for another candidate.
You're so professional.
I know. This person gets coffee. This person gets water. Put it in the calendar. No depositions on this day.
This person, what?
That's literally what
It's
I
very
did.
specific. So talking about playing and running RPGs with the coolest person.
Me.
Yep.
You're talking about me.
Yeah, I'm talking about you. At JKAIDASH.
Oh, that's a great introduction for who I am.
Who are you? Why
Hi.
are you here?
I am hosting. No, I'm not. I just hosted myself. Hi,
Host
I'm
yourself.
Jackie Dash. JAKIDASH. Boop. And I'm here to talk to you about different styles of GMing. Because when I first started, I was like, man, you know what the way to GM is? It's to GM like that charismatic guy in your first D&D session.
Oh,
and then you
yeah,
stick
yeah.
with that for life. And then you
Yeah.
realize that's wrong for you because everyone's got to GM a different way.
Mhm.
And but you don't realize that till
Wow, I haven't thought about it. Can you scooch over just like a
yeah, which
scotch?
way?
That
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
Because chat runs here. Perfect.
Chat runs up here.
So yeah, we are gonna welcome, for anyone who is new and joining us,
Mm-hmm.
welcome to Geek Space TV. If you happen to be new, we are a nonprofit broadcasting studio, and today our show is called Behind the Screens, in which I now
that's
bring
right.
on frequently other people to talk about playing and running tabletop RPGs. So different strategies, techniques, methods, styles, answer questions that you might have. And so, oh look, Jackie Dash is hosting us.
I figured it out.
So one of the things that I wanted to do is bring on Claudia, because for many reasons. One, Claudia was in my first ever Dungeons and Dragons group. So we
Correct.
have been playing RPGs together for, I think, this many years.
So I started my first D&D was after my sophomore year of college.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 years.
Yeah, something like that.
8 years.
Something
We've
like
known
that.
each other for 8 years, and I was afraid of Lauren for a month.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that is a thing. People are frequently afraid of me when they meet me. The yin and fang of GMing.
We're going to be opposites in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we are. There's a lot of things I think we both do differently, but we've been in a number of different long-term campaigns. We've been GM'd by each other. We have GM'd
Yes.
for each other.
Yes.
Those two statements I just said mean the exact same thing.
I think we've both been in each other's first games that we've GM'd. Like, because my first one was Sarai, which was a love letter to my character.
Yep. And my
we'll
first
talk
one was
about
Shadowrun, which was a clusterfuck.
Yeah. Oh, we can curse in here. Cool.
Yes,
I was
yeah.
figuring
We do
that out on the
not
bus.
have the family-friendly tag on.
All right.
So we're going to chat about a lot of different ways of playing RPGs. I'm going to ask you questions. You can ask me questions. Chat can ask both of us questions. As always, if you put the word question somewhere in the sentence, then I am more likely to see it because it will tag it and highlight it red for us in chat. It's very handy.
And we'll try our best, but like all good speakers, we're going to miss the best questions.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why, like, whenever you go to, like, anime conventions and they're doing a Q&A, you hate half the people online
Well,
because
it's
they're asking
because
bad questions.
Half the people online make statements and
They're
not
making-
ask questions.
Yes, actually. And we're going to do a lot of that here, too.
Yeah, oh yeah. We'll make plenty of statements. In the meantime, if you would like to support us, there's so many ways you can do so. You're already doing one of them, which is hanging out here, watching the stream. You can also head over to our Seed and Spark campaign, contribute to it if you can. Share it out with other people. We are fundraising for this current season of content. Things like not this show, but things like a replacement for this show, which is an interview show, Worlds Beyond Season 2, which we are both part of, and a stretch goal, which is Shadowrun.
There's a lot of other things, too. We have
Has
two
some very
different
cool
RPGs, Ryutama, one based off The Expanse, We have an art show. Like, we were trying to create a lot of different kind of content to express how art can be done in so many different ways.
Yep.
And by so many different voices.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I'm excited about in this is both of our short run RPGs are by people who have never GM'd before.
Right. Which you talk about brings a new thing to the table.
Yeah. I think there is so much value, and not everyone is going to enjoy GMing, and not everyone is going to want to GM. But I think everybody should try it, because it also teaches you a lot about what is behaviors you like to see in players too. Like being the one on the side of the table, you're like, yes.
And if you GM once, you realize, oh, here are some things I noticed from this side that I did as a player that suck. A lot at our table, I used to be on my phone a lot. You know what sucks when you're telling a story?
When someone's on the phone.
Yeah. So that's kind of a good experience to see it from both sides.
Yes, very much so. But the ways to support us, you can also share out the tweet. I think someone posted it in chat. Host us here as well. If you do send in donations, we'll go ahead and read out any of those messages that come in as well.
Yeah.
So with that,
there's so many ways.
So many things. Let's jump into some things. I thank you, Nick's Holloway statement. I love you all. We love you all. Thank you. I think we're already more on the rails than when Marcus was here. Actually, Marcus was very focused, which was pretty great.
Marcus was excited about talking about it.
He was very excited. To start us off, Pumpkin has a very important question, and then I'll jump in with how I think we can start, which is what happened to Excited Cheese Girl?
I think she had a good time.
A good. Get out!
Well, that's the shortest interview we've ever done for you. And then I just slowly go away.
I'm gonna fade us out. That was perfect. There's no other response to that. So I want to start off with, because we have been playing together for a long time, but I want us to get to know you. What was kind of your early RPG experiences? How did you get started into this whole world of playing RPGs?
We're gonna go into a little bit of Claudia shame and then Claudia game.
Okay.
So at the University of Washington, there was a How to LARP class.
This is my favorite. I forgot that this was part of her story. This is great. Keep going.
And it's actually done by a great professor. His name is Ed Chang. I think he's on the East Coast now. He's teaching Harry Potter literature classes. And
what is our world coming to?
His entire goal was, why do adults not play fantasy? Why is it pushed so hard when you are a child, and then there's a point where you cannot make believe anymore? You need items for joy, you need items for gaming, and as an adult you continue that. Ooh. So your hobbies, instead of running around outside, are buy these really expensive shoes to then run around outside. So this concept of fantasy and how can you get back into fantasy. So the course was really cool. So we started off with you make a character, you read the rules, and you break it down chapter by chapter. And then we also read some essays from why is high fantasy actually more acceptable than other kinds of fantasy and all that. And mostly that's because it's written by white guys.
Yep, that sounds right.
So through that, I met some people, and those people were like, "You're kind of cool. You want to come to this D&D thing?" And the boy I liked at the time invited me, and then he didn't show up there, and I did, and then I stayed.
Yes!
And so I remember I kind of rolled in, and they're like, "Here, play a rogue," and I was like, "What does that do?" And they're like, "It's a character sheet." And so my experience with D&D was so much more of a plug and play, and my first episode was actually a horror episode. So not only did I experience D&D in a weird way, but then I also got to experience it with this rush of, I don't even start with a backstory. I started with a blank slate that I then got to design on my own. I decided that they were a female. Then I got that they were a halfling, because halfling rogues, come on guys.
They're the best. I love halflings.
And I even got to make the really bad mistake of your character dies, so make a sister character with the same skill set. I did all the tropes.
So I want to interject here and add into. So I joined this D&D group because I was in an improv group.
Right.
And
with
in that
some
improv
people.
group, this is very tangential. Some of you may also know I was in a zombie comic. So this is my life was very strange, still is. So I was in a zombie comic. That zombie comic had a booth at a zombie convention called Crypticon in Seattle. And at Crypticon, they also had a bunch of people from the LARP class.
Right.
Who were playing a LARP at Crypticon. They were playing as the zombies. And so a
Very
friend
cool.
who was in the LARP class, maybe he wasn't in the LARP class. I don't remember, was Andy in that
No.
class? No.
No,
he was friends with
he
someone.
was friends with another
That
friend.
webcomic.
I didn't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, so we both tangentially met.
Yeah, so, but he was at this convention, and I drove him up there because I was like, well, I'm going to this convention. And similarly, the boy I liked was there. Actually, I didn't know that until so we ate lunch together, and then I was like, yeah, I don't have anything to do tonight. He's like, I'm doing Dungeons, Dragons, and D&D, and the third D stands for drinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're cute. Sounds like fun.
There's an ampersand, an ampersand.
An ampersand.
No,
D&D.
the
Yeah.
little what is it? The sparkly in the air. Asterix.
An asterisk.
That guy, not
Sparkly
that
in
cool.
No.
But like we don't know that then.
We were young and in college, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I met because I was at a zombie convention, and then I went to that night. You weren't there.
I
that
wasn't
night.
there. I think I either had a family thing
Yeah.
or was in marching band.
So then my second episode, I don't know which episode this
was
for you.
my like third episode where I was like, hey, let's make a deal with the devil. And then like that character was over.
Yeah, so in the second episode of the second session of D&D, and I had actually played a long time ago. Like I played a couple years beforehand in college with another group of friends, and then that one kind of fell apart after like 3 or 4. I think we got through like 4 or 5 episodes, and it kind of fell apart.
As the usual is when you're first
as
D&D.
is the usual. But that one was really fun. Like that was actually a group that I really enjoyed, and I liked those people, but it just sort of petered out and stopped happening. And this was like right as the transition. So this campaign was 4th edition. The first one I did was 3.5.
Which I can't imagine starting with 3.5.
Yeah, I played a cleric. I did not have fun.
I started with 4 and I was like, yeah,
I
point and
was
click.
like, I want to tell stories, but I can't fucking do anything. I'm run out of spell slots.
Better just stand there.
Pretty much. So I got a little salty because, like earlier, I think both of us had been involved in like BBS boards, like role playing online.
We both did a lot of role playing online. That was where we started, I think, because I did that all through high school, where I was just like, let's figure out how to make stories with other people, and then you slowly went like, I want to make stories with 2 people, and then you're like, why don't I just make stories without anyone else?
So for those of you who are wondering what zombie comic I'm talking about, Paladin Hulk posted in the chat earlier. It's called Night Zero. It was a production of one of my friends, and everyone who does improv in Seattle has been in it. I'm pretty sure Keeson's in it at some point too. I know Janine's in it. I know Sarah's in it.
Well, anyone who did improv 6 years ago.
Yeah, anyone who did improv about 6 years ago.
Because I just missed it, because it was the ending when I finally hit the end.
And then a few people who weren't part of improv because they eventually did non-improv casting. But yeah, maybe
it was.
Keeson wasn't
What
in
if
it.
instead
I know
of a
Janine
comic,
definitely was.
we took pictures instead?
We took pictures.
Really cool concept. Never seen that before.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, haven't really seen it again. Because it's a lot of fucking work. Because you basically do a shoot. It's a whole movie shoot.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, it's almost except for sound. That's the only thing you don't have to deal with, which is nice. So I showed up at the second night, and in that session, your character betrayed everyone in the group, made a deal with the devil, and then disappeared.
Because they got their baby back.
And then you came back as your character's sister.
Yes, who was, to be fair, the emo one.
I was like, what the fuck is happening?
So I don't think we started off on a great foot. Like, I don't think...
There is a lot of tension in that game, for sure.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, if she hates my character, she must hate me.
Yeah, and that's what we call bleed.
Yeah. Which I didn't know what that was.
I did not either. I don't remember if I played I think I built my character for that one.
I think you did
played
the bard.
Because I think I played
then
the
you
bard
had to
all
be
the way through that campaign.
you
Then
had
to
to
be
be a
their
lawyer.
lawyer at one point.
Yeah, because we murdered someone, and you were like, let's figure out if you did. And the answer was, you did.
The answer was you did, but thankfully someone attacked the courtroom, so we didn't have to finish the trial. Because you saved a bunch of people's lives, so they're like, it's fine, we'll forgive you.
It's fine, though. My character did get, I did get justice served, as in my character's hearts got ripped out, which...
Yeah, I was not there for that.
That's cool. I also wasn't there for that.
So for those who don't know, bleed is a concept where your character's thoughts, feelings, emotional states, mindset, even physical states can bleed into yours. So they become your thoughts, feelings, emotional states, and also the other way around. So a really good example is if she hates my character, she must hate me.
Right.
That's taking the feelings about a character and putting them onto yourself.
So,
or
like,
our characters are arguing, so
we're arguing, which we actually also had.
We did have.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of bleed. Or like, sometimes if you've had a really hard day and you go to your D&D thing and you bring like the, man, life is hard, and your character acts like life is hard. Like, it's that kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, so that's what the concept of bleed is, which is, it's not inherently a bad thing.
No.
It's more something that you should be aware of. That like, hey, I can sometimes feel things because I'm pretending to feel things, or I'm feeling things, and so my pretend is influenced, and that's very normal. It's just important to like know that it's happening. I'm sure a good chunk of people have done that. This is my dead character's twin. I have not.
No,
But
it's a good
it's
like
a good trope though.
it's a good trope to start with, and like we've all like. I think because you're gonna see like all of what I've done, like, or we're gonna talk about it, you're gonna see that all the tropes happen. Like,
yeah.
Like I've done the thing where we ended our campaign and then I joined 3 other campaigns at the same time
Oh jeez.
because I wanted so much D&D, and I found that there are in that way I found a group that was not only all dudes because our group was weird as all females.
Yeah, our group was actually, in the very beginning, I think it was a pretty close to a 50-50 split. Because it was me, you, there was at least 2 other
Marguerite.
women. Yeah,
There
Marguerite,
was
Bonnie. And then we had like Andy and
Yes.
Noah. So like
Yeah.
the group was about 8 people total, and not everyone was there at every session, and it was a surprisingly even split. Which was unusual. And so actually all of my early D&D experiences were with either close to even split or predominantly female groups.
Right. But then I went out of that. So
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
left
let's. No, I just had lots of groups at the same time. It's fine. It didn't get weird. And so I played a character with a group, and they were all boys, but I think it was coincidental. It wasn't like but that were like very much, this is a tactics game. So they played 4th edition like tactics, and I realized, I'm doing the same activity that I had so much joy with, but I'm not having a good time. And so I really had to sit and think about what makes things have a good time. I, for example, and I think you also play this way, I don't like counting gold.
God, I couldn't care less.
can't do it. And what was so hard is I made a choice. I was like, my character does not
I guess I could
believe
care
in
less.
wealth.
Yeah,
Like,
that's one way to get around it.
Items are of value, and the team I was with was like, we do gold, you don't get any. And so it made it a really hard, like, emotional thing, because I was like, emotionally, I was like, I want to talk to you about my feelings, but I can't, because I'm new to this team, and also the only girl. And I'm playing different than you all. So eventually I left that group, because it ended. Not because I left, just because it ended. And then we got to a point where we got to be the GMs, because our GM left.
Yeah, so it was kind of a series of things, because the GM left, I think the campaign wrapped up.
Yeah.
And then, I don't remember if we had a break or someone else took over.
I think I went straight, because I did one, and then I think Noah did Game of Thrones, which didn't know what
I
Game of
thought
Thrones was.
Game of Thrones happened, and then you GM'd.
That could also be it. Like,
Because when you were GMing, it was when I had broken my ankle.
and you know what else?
Because I remember making everyone come over to our apartment.
Someone made their own system, and that was
We did that
interesting.
for like a few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
We played a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So we started rotating around GMs, but I think you GM'd before.
Shadowrun.
No. I GM'd Shadowrun before you did, because I very clearly
Oh.
remember playing in the apartment when I had a broken ankle, because we were in the apartment around the small table. I remember playing your campaign, and I remember planning Shadowrun before I lived in that apartment.
That's right, because Shadowrun was not the at your job.
No, that was my second D.
Yeah.
That was when I did D.
'Cause
I did Shadowrun.
Yeah, because we did Game of Thrones, which I realized sometimes games don't let you do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, I want to twirl, and they're like, that's not a thing. And I was like, I want to fight, you will die, and I did.
Yeah.
And then we did your campaign, which we realized,
We got all the rules for Shadowrun wrong.
and laptops are not good to bring to D&D.
Yeah.
Don't
yeah.
have 13 people in a room.
Yeah, I learned a lot of lessons from my first Shadowrun campaign, which was 8 people is too many, and that if you have to have a laptop in order to reference all of the rules are probably too complicated or you haven't learned them well enough.
Right. Well, our character sheets we used with an Excel spreadsheet. So we got an Excel spreadsheet where we
Mm-hmm.
could put things, and it was a drag and drop. It was completely online, and it made Shadowrun
made it
functional.
Possible to build people's character sheets, but
Yeah.
it also meant that people couldn't have physical ones at the table. Almost everyone had a laptop
And
at
you know,
the table.
everyone else had access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it wasn't your turn, which happens a lot when you don't know the rules, it just wasn't a good way to do that game.
Yeah, and to be clear, there's nothing wrong with groups who want to play tactically or
No.
want to play and care about counting gold. Like, that is a totally legitimate way of playing a tabletop RPG, and especially one like D&D that has all of those things built into it. It just wasn't what either of us wanted.
Or looking for. Like when I play Mansions of Madness, I'm like, I am tactics. I am not thinking about who I'm like we are discussing Pandemic Legacy. Tactics.
Yeah, it's tactics. It's not an RPG.
And that's just how we play games. And so if you play tactically with your team, that is totally good. Just making sure everyone gets what they want.
But yeah, so the fact that everyone kind of had to have their laptop, including me, like the only thing as the GM is you're just always on.
Yeah.
Is that it was very easy to be like, well, this turn's gonna take forever, and I genuinely remember someone taking a picture, posting it on Facebook, and people commenting on it in the group while I was running.
Yeah.
Like, while the game was happening, and I was like, guys, come on.
And then we did that, and then I did mine, which mistake number 2, I made a campaign that was a love letter to my character.
And to be clear, this is the character who was the one that was the twin of the one that
Yeah.
betrayed us.
And I think you always love your first character. Like, let's just be real. You always love your first character.
I don't have that many strong
Oh.
feelings about Maddie.
I have a lot.
My bard.
I have a lot of strong feelings about mine.
Yeah, at least pretend you're paying attention. Don't give me all of that evidence that you're not paying attention.
Objection! You weren't paying attention, and just goes to Facebook. Scroll down. So that was where I learned that my story is not the most important. I can have an overarching arc, but the more important part is what the players are feeling. Because not only one do you guys get excited, but 2, I get excited with being suppressed. And so that's like a personal, and that probably led to a lot of what I considered success in GMing in the future. I also learned things like, hey, maybe don't introduce 16 different rules in one game. Like, do one new cool thing at a time. Don't do 3D underwater combat underwater when the system doesn't allow it. So,
Yeah, underwater combat in 5th is just kind of boring.
because it's, well,
You just have disadvantage on everything unless you have specific weapons.
yeah. I mean, underwater, it doesn't work well when you're the D&D 4th edition is really good at flat plains.
Very positional.
It is really bad when you get 3D.
Yeah, because I did one challenge in 4th edition that was vertical, but it was still a flat plane because it
Yeah.
was just a vertical flat plane.
But for
because you
me-
were going up a cliff.
Yeah. So, that was a thing. So I made mistakes. I learned, and then, I think you did a. Did you do a 4th edition?
I ran a
after that?
campaign.
Yeah.
I ran a 4th edition campaign that included the vertical one. That was where you were
I
the
was
barbarian.
I was a barbarian. I
You're
was
a
like,
good
this
barbarian.
is great. Let me tattoo the.
She was such a good
Episode
barbarian.
1 was like, there's a death cult slave symbol. I'm gonna put it. I was an art student.
She
Remember?
was an art student. She was an art. Okay, so the setup for this game, the setup
Which is
for
a
this
good
game
setup. Good setup.
was because I wanted something where players could kind of come in and out easily.
Yeah.
So I was intentionally planning it as episodic. Because I knew the group that we had, it was very difficult to get people to
Yeah.
be there every week, but I could pretty conceivably run it at least every 2 weeks, and I could do it. And so as long
Yeah.
as enough people were going to be there, and I knew who was
could do
going to,
it.
it was fine. It didn't really matter who was going to be there. So I was like, okay, the setup is there's universities in this world, and there is a adventuring course. Like there is a program
It's
in
like a minor
adventuring.
or a major.
Yeah, so you could get a minor in adventuring, or you could get a major in adventuring at the university. And so they were all university students getting their degrees in adventuring, and I would think like you graduated when you hit like
Yeah.
level 10 or something like that, and then
I
you
think
could be
we all-
hired as like adjuncts.
I think we did because then the world started to end.
Yeah, well then the world ended, and that was a whole separate thing. But like it was like a whole setup. Like eventually you could then become like adjuncts, and so the university had its whole adventuring department. It was very fun. And so that was the setup for it. And so she was a art major slash
I was an art major.
minor in adventuring.
Which is a minor in adventuring, and I focused in tattoo. Mm-hmm. That character did.
She was a barbarian tattoo artist. And so I introduced in like episode 1 or
It was
2.
It was one. It was episode 1, because
Sure.
because they introduced the symbol.
Yeah.
But we like killed 3 dudes, and it was fun.
Yeah, they were a bunch of cultists, and this was the symbol of their god. And so her character thought,
Let's tattoo it on my arm to show that I beat them, because they're never gonna come back.
and I remember being like, are you sure you want to do this?
Yes, it was like right here. It was the first one, like 100%, not a mistake.
And then that was when I realized that A, Claudia is a treasure and I love her. And B, when your players make choices, it is so wonderful to like breathing life into a campaign. And suddenly it went from being a story that I was creating on my own to a story I was making with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then that became a whole thing. They tracked the party through it. This evil
Yeah,
cult
we figured
used
out by the
symbol
end.
to track the party wherever they went, so they could get there first. So they kept having those like Scooby-Doo moments, or like,
What are you
adventure moments,
doing
like,
here?
How did you get here before us?
We did the research. I can't remember if it ended with the character like tattooing over it or killing the god or
You guys did kill the
skinning
god.
it. Like I think there was mention that she would skin it off. I don't
remember.
I mean, I did make my character come from a pirate country. Like that was great.
Yeah. There was some pretty good stuff in that campaign.
Yeah.
There was also some pretty ridiculous things in it. I had fun. I think it was my longest campaign. That went for almost a year.
Yeah, it was good. That was good. I think making, for us, it worked that we would have a group of 10 and that, you know, you could have a solid group of 3 always show up, but then you had the rotating cast, which is a good way to introduce people to games. Because you can be like, you can be here for 1 episode, or it was really easy. And we could invite people because 4th edition was really easy to make.
Yeah, we shared one like license or something to the character creator.
We did.
One account to it, so like everybody kept their characters in there, and so you could just build one for everybody, and
Yeah.
you could level them up really easily. So it was actually pretty easy for us to do and incorporate people into it.
Which was something that we enjoyed.
Yeah, towards the end it got a little harder because life kept happening to
Yeah.
all of us. I was like, oh god.
I think that's when I was graduating and you were moving. No, I'm getting timetables wrong.
No, because I moved. I think I did move partway through.
No,
because I
'cause-
moved into the house that I used to
No,
live in.
you made the banner of our characters and then you moved away.
Yep.
So I think that was like 6 months.
It wrapped up like a few months before I went to California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was so okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, I had a conclusion, and then it was like, oh shit, now I actually need specific people there for specific episodes.
Right.
That's when it got complicated, and someone else moved away, and then someone sort of stopped showing up because Anna left.
That's right.
Party
And then
lives.
we had the group. Someone fell out with us.
Yep. So I
think
wasn't
it's-
able to like get everybody there for the finale and stuff. It was interesting. I think I learned a lot of stuff in that one about like I know so much lore and backstory of that world that y'all never knew, and I made
Nope.
it probably too complicated and didn't give you all enough space to build your own parts of that world.
I mean, I forced myself to build a country because I said like I will GM one event because I GM'd the Olympics. And I was like, run across this thing, and you guys are like, I am a character, and I was like, oh, so you guys like demolished the entire island nation.
Yeah, because we were PCs.
Yeah. It was really fun. That's also a really good way to get into GMing. Doing like a one shot in the world that you've seen somebody kind of create.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I did Shadowrun, and then you did yours, and then
Mine
I-
lasted about 6 months, I think.
I did mine. You did a second one though. You did like a 4-week run at some point, and that might have been after.
I think
someone else.
I probably
ran.
did a short
I think that was
one.
when we ran to like the system someone had made, and
Yeah.
then I think you did your short run, and then I think I picked up my campaign.
Yeah, we definitely were like, let's be fair, and then no one could keep up.
Yeah, we did a lot of like trying to transition like who was GMing, and then it very clearly just felt to like I was like, nah, I'm gonna just do it.
Well, you were gifted I have 2 hours a day.
I was so bored at my job
Yeah. Maybe that's why your world was so intricate.
because I just had so much time to build it. Possibly.
You did draw a map.
How has your GMing style evolved over the? Yes, I did make a map of the continent.
And we only went to literally a quarter inch of it.
Yeah,
Like, we
it was-
went
the
to
whole thing
this
was set in
part.
one country. I mean, I did the same thing for Skywatch. The whole thing was set in a city-state, and I still drew the entire continent and a second continent.
I love Skywatch, and I understand why we'll never do Skywatch again. I don't even think I can play my
Someday.
character in a long term and feel like that I can touch upon all the issues I'd want to in a safe and like.
I have a
Positive
whole,
way.
like, that 4-shot ended up being the precursor to what I had envisioned being a larger plot line.
Yeah.
So we could 100% go back to that world. It would be a different version of the world.
Yeah.
It would be like the equivalent of Battlestar Galactica to, like, the preview to the show.
That would work.
Hi, Android.
Yes. Crutches.
Crutches are such a workout.
You had them.
Yep.
I've never broken a bone.
I had very good pecs when I was on crutches.
Well, you had a lot of like, because you were roller derbying at that time, and then all the muscles just moved up.
Yeah, they just moved. It's like your uterus when it just flies around your body. It's your muscles just lift up.
Yes. So I see two questions. How has my GM style evolved over the years?
Well, maybe the better way to, I don't know if you have
Yeah.
an answer for that, but
Yeah.
you can think about, like, what do you think your GMing style was in, like, your first, because you like to trash on your campaign, like, it was a love letter to my character, but, like, what was your style then for planning? And then you can think about, like, that short
Yeah.
run that you did, too. And then what did you do now for things you've done more recently, like OVA?
So back then, my entire goal was that I was really into episodic because that's how that's how everyone else who was very good at GMing did it. And then
You were very
also,
episodic as a group.
yeah,
By necessity.
it worked. It worked for us. And I was thinking every single episode, I want to introduce some interesting mechanic. So my episodes were more mechanical than they were story driven. Like this episode, I want to introduce underwater combat. This episode, I wanted real world puzzles that people had to interact with. This one, I wanted to introduce, and so I instead of thinking of it as what am I going to do with this thing, I was like, what am I going to do with my players? And so then I thought, well, then I went from there and I went, every episode needs to have one moment for somebody in the party. So like, for example, we had, like, if I knew there was a cleric who was really excited that they could use nature healing, I made sure there was an area where they would be alone with something that they could nature heal. So like, because I realized in a large group, if you are new, you can sometimes be blotted out. A lot of that was because we had a very good player who was good at maxing out character skills. And I was like,
We had some min-maxers, and we had one in particular.
we had one in particular who was also charismatic. So if you, as an early player, you're like, oh, you're playing with me, yeah, and then you're like, but no one else is playing with you. So that's when I started doing that. So I went with every episode something different was going to happen.
I don't think we were alive when Dan Puzzles was young.
Such a bird.
Dan Puzzles was born middle-aged.
That's actually kind of fair. And I don't think they realized they were hogging all the attention. I
No.
think they were just so used to, like, they did stage work. They did all
Yeah.
this. They're used to being this. And not a bad way.
Yeah.
No. And then after that, I do remember my 4-part miniseries now, because I was like, no one ever let me be a tiefling. I'm going to make the entire world tieflings. And that was the one where I realized I can't, like, when people fail, success grows.
What do you mean by that?
I left a very, very visible clue that just rolls failed at. Just could not figure out that the princess had a parasite worm inside her that was delivered from the head of her fiance that was given to her for her 18th birthday
Don't know
as
how
a
we didn't
signal
figure
of
that
war.
out.
You rolled very low 4 times because
Yep.
there was 2 of you who went to see it. You had 2 options. You had one go to. That's where I started to figure out I like creepy stuff.
Oh,
because
that was where you figured it out? Not like Sarai the undead revenant?
because I had I introduced a tiefling who I was like, this guy is very cool. But then I also introduced the princess could. The reason why she was always locked in her tower was because she had constant visions of the world ending, and slowly they were consuming her. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what she does? She just uses chalk to just draw eyes all around her room.
That's right.
Because then I think you just close the door.
You're like, nope.
And then the other group went to CSI the fiance's body, and you guys were nothing there. Like 3, 4, 1. I was like, yeah, nothing. Guys, he died. Like,
Yeah, I think that was definitely a lesson. I mean, I've learned that lesson too. That like, if you rely on rolls, like it's twofold. Like,
yeah.
you can't always rely on rolls for people
No.
to get information because they can fail them,
Or they
So-
won't even look.
or they won't even look. So how do you get them that information in a way that's not random? And you can't always rely on the player to figure out that they should do it for themselves because they might not understand the signals that you're telegraphing.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you give people information in a way that's not necessarily just handing it to them?
Yeah.
How do you make it satisfying? How do you build a mystery? Like, that's a hard one. for
Mysteries are
D&D.
still really hard. Like with D&D, because so much of it is role based, you can't really unless you're purposely not telling them things, which is an option. But then
Yeah.
you have somebody rolls a 20, and you're like, well, now you get the end. Like,
Yeah,
D&D,
and I
yeah.
I think that's where like you have to use different systems for it.
and that's I'm right now reading through Bubble Gumshoe because I'm excited about mysteries. And then High School Royale was weird. Yeah. So I did OVA twice on Hyper for cherries. I was like, and that was weird because that was around the time I realized I could be myself and be okay with it. Like I didn't have to pretend to be what somebody else wanted me to be, and I didn't have to play a game like other people would play a game. So Buck Wild was like, let's do this. And so that's what OVA was ability to do, right? I was like, the hype has to stay up. I'm good at hype. I have 4 people here who are very excited to be here. I made Marcus go. He was like, I don't know how to play. I'm like, you're literally one of the best role players I know. And he's like, no. And I'm like, what are you going to be? And he's like, I don't know. Make up something. I'm like, you're a teenage boy detective. Go have fun. Like, I forced my friends to play. You had an idea. Dan was like, please. And I was like, yes, Dan.
I love Dan so much, and I think that was that's a piece that I take as a player. Like, one of the things I feel both as a GM and a player that secrets are only interesting if someone knows them.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you are just like, well, this is a secret, I have a secret, and like no one's ever gonna find out. In which case, frequently, and I've done this in RPGs where I plan something as the GM, but because I've never told anyone it,
They don't know to look.
They don't know to look, or they'll make up something because everyone's making stuff up that contradicts that, and I'm like, well, this is now untrue.
Yeah.
So if Dan had not told us that he was a mermaid,
Right, he
and
let
he
me
couldn't
know.
get wet.
He let us know, like, is there gonna, like, and then you
like,
pushed
and then
him.
I was just like, nah, I'm just gonna make water show up all the time, and I'm gonna constantly ask Claudia if it's raining. And it's like those things where it's only interesting as soon as someone knows it. Otherwise, a secret is just a secret and it's boring. And if no one else in the group knows the secret, and you can't trust them to keep that separate from
Right.
their character knowledge, then like that's the thing. Like, secrets are great in RPGs, but people's gotta know them.
But we didn't know about the underwater. We didn't know that he had.
Oh, I didn't know that he
No,
had
we didn't
a
know
fake
that.
peck chest
We didn't know he had the
underneath.
fake-
Like, surprises, I think, are different than secrets.
Yeah.
A surprise is a secret. Is something you know you're going to reveal, and you
Yes.
intend to reveal. But a secret, like if you keep something from people, then either there's a risk that it'll have to become untrue.
Yeah.
Or it never gets revealed. In which case, why was it interesting?
Look at the 2 things that, like, if you are very familiar with shows that we've done. Dan Poslin was Mordecai, and we never got his backstory.
Yeah.
And that's because he never told anyone his secrets.
Mhm.
And he was okay with that, and he
He
actually.
didn't know it.
I mean, fair. But that was.
Fun fact: He didn't have a backstory.
And then there's also the fact of you introduced a way for us to think about each other's secrets early in Worlds Beyond. Where you're like, here's Murder Spider,
Yeah, that
suck
was fun.
face. And then
Yeah, that's
we,
fair.
out of character, got to figure everything out. But in character, we still didn't know. So, like, it was really fun this week where Pine was like, who is Laura? Like, who is this person who I've never heard about? So,
Yeah.
and that's hard. Like,
It's hard. That requires a lot of trust in your player's ability to maintain information and keep it for themselves. There's also the aspect of when you have an audience, dramatic irony is a very important part of a lot of narratives. For those who don't know, dramatic irony is where the audience knows something that the characters do not. And to simulate that in an RPG, that often means the players know something that the characters do not, because the players are functionally part of the audience as well.
Like, I think there was one time my idea was every episode somebody gets a 5-minute backstory where they get to just show something, whatever they feel like is important, and they get to do that, and then we start the like normal, like nothing's happened. But that's a way to reveal secrets without being like, well, actually.
And it's also like that, like, kind of show don't tell. But that is a place where I think a home game versus a live game is
It's
different.
so
because
different.
You have an audience to contend with. So, like, my theories about secrets are a little bit more in relation to playing a game for an audience, because the secret is not like, the audience gets in on that secret, and that's what's interesting. The audience knows about Laura, and so they are part of knowing that, and that means that the players are part of knowing that. Oz is a bad princess because he made to deal with the dragon, but the characters don't know yet.
Love that I know. I really Claudia doesn't know a lot about the Wizard of Oz, so
Yeah.
like it's been really fun being like. So does Pine. Contrary though, Pine does know lots of the dragon.
Have you seen the original
Yes.
Wizard of Oz? Okay,
Yes.
then that's like the base of knowledge that you need. After that, it's all just conjecture. Right. So that I think is something. I guess something to consider when you're running a game for an audience is how do you use dramatic irony?
And also, like, speaking of home games, we did a home game last year, and home game versus play game, I did not act the same. When I had a home game,
I wanna put a caveat. Our home game was maybe not the best setup for a home game.
No.
In a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways. Yeah. But something I did realize is I'm like, when I roleplay here, it's work. It's fun work. I live for it, right? But I'm always on here. And I don't know if you want to expect your players when you're in a home game to do that. At home games, I doodled constantly. Because that was a way for me to think without being, like, you know.
I think some of it is we had a crappy GM.
Yeah. It took us a while to know that.
It took me a long time to realize.
You were upset for like 2 months.
It took me a while to realize. I was like, oh, this person was doing what you did, which is make this all about their NPCs.
Right. And then you're like, we're having a conversation, we're reaching, and then NPC, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of, it's about their NPCs. There was also, several of us never got to do the things we were good at, because I was an entirely combat-focused character.
You're about 50-50 combat focus. And like, I was charisma, so I was like, oh, you do a charisma game? I'm also charisma. So that's also a thing to think about.
Yeah, it was. But the always on piece is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
The always on piece is when you're doing a show, it's a performance. It's like being on stage. You don't just like do this at the back of a stage.
No.
While the audience is watching you.
But you can't do that at your home game because that's what you get out of your home games. Like,
right.
I'm not throwing, like, if the day was 30 hours, think about how many more home games we could have.
Like one a day, right?
Yeah.
6 hours.
Yeah.
That extra 6 hours would just be a game.
I mean, let's be real. We're capitalism. We'd work more longer.
Yes,
but,
yes, we would.
But just the concept of, like, at home, you do different things.
Yeah, there's
different values.
There's less intensity in the focus. I also think that like our home games tended to be longer, and so because of that, they were more relaxed. Like we would do like 4 or 5 hour games, And so when you're there for 4 or 5 hours, you need to tune out sometimes because you just can't stay focused for that long. Like, I struggle even in a 4-hour, like, performance game to stay focused for 4 hours.
My back starts to hurt here after, like, at 30 minutes for the end. I don't know, you guys could probably tell me, like, I get into my little,
It's
like...
a little better now that we have chairs on both sides than the bench.
Benches are good for squishing. Bench is not good for backing. And, like, we also did the 9-10 hour wake up your roommates because we're rolling dice on glass.
It was not good.
No.
Pissed off my roommates. So we had the question about how your jamming style has changed now.
Oh.
So you started touching a little bit onto OVA being about, was when you could be, like, authentically yourself?
Authentically hyped 100% of the time.
And how did that change into, like, this sort of the run of OVA that you did? The, like, 12 weeks-ish.
Right, because we did 2 one-shots. And the first one was,
and a one-shot is, like, all hype all the time. But, like, what would you say is some of the core differences in your GMing style from the run of OVA versus our very first RPG campaign?
Yeah, on stream.
No, not even on stream.
Oh.
Just, like, what are some of the key differences? Like, because you talked about the first one, you were mechanics focused. Like, you wanted to give a new mechanic, a new kind of, like, challenge or puzzle every week. And you wanted to give opportunities for specific characters.
Right.
What is similar? What is different? Do you still focus on the mechanic challenges? Did you still focus on characters? Like, how did you approach creating those stories?
I think looking at, like, let's look at High School Royale. It was, like, what, 12 to 15 episodes. I'm not really sure.
It was something about that, yeah.
Because it was 5, 4, or 5, I think.
Something,
And I think season 1, I realized you don't have to follow the plan. Like, I still created, like, in my mind, I was like, because the entire concept of High School Royale, if you're not familiar, it is the competition of who is the greatest. It's the games of excellence, and it is challenges between high schools in the area, and if you are the best high school, your team gets a wish. That is the summary of season 1 in and so...
And it was not a horror show.
It was not. Season 1 was not.
Season 1, you introduced the horror, so you can't actually say that.
So every episode, I was like, you're gonna get a new school, you're gonna get a new concept, and you're gonna get a different game. So, like,
also, nobody dies in the games of excellence, but I still cut someone's arm off.
Yeah. So, like, episode 1, you're like, oh, it's a labyrinth, it's a dungeon. And then episode 2 was like, it's a heist movie. Episode 3 was social justice for monsters. And then episode 4 was Big Bad. That was my plan. That was, and then what was happening was like, and then that was all I thought about. I didn't think anything else. It was just episode 1. So, and over that time, I still planned events. Like, I still knew, like, you're good at this thing. I'm going to put this kind of, enemy. Except I didn't do a lot of fire. That was my mistake with you. I felt really bad I didn't do enough fire.
Fine. It really wasn't a big deal. I think I kept that ability, but it never really came up. And I was
there was like twice where fire happened.
Oh well, whatever.
And I think I realized, because with OVA, I was like, all right, this is a big one. Let's plan the rules. And then we're going to plan them again. And then we're going to write a third time the plot with specific notes about where I'm going to do what character actions. So that was OVA Season 1 planning. And then at the episode 4, about halfway, character choice happened. Where a character was like, here is trouble, but with a big reward. And so it was like about halfway through episode 4 where I was like, oh no, and I literally...
Was that the nap zone?
That was where she was like, I need to stop my grandmother from doing this. And I think, because I wasn't spiraling that direction. I wasn't spiraling to, like, undo everything that you've done. Mm-hmm. It was like, and that's the end, and you're going to have to fight. And my original plan was you're going to fight in mechs. That was my plot for the end of episode 4. I made mechanics. They weren't good, but they were there. And then instead I was like, oh no, we're not going to do that because player choice happened. And I think player choice really pushed seasons 2 and 3. Because while I still wrote things 3 times, it was very common for me to literally throw out half of the things I wrote. Because
Do you feel like you didn't do as much of that when you were starting out? That
No.
You were more like, this is what's going to happen and it has to happen?
yes, where even if like a player was like, I'm bad, I'm like, well, here's the thing anyways. Like, I need you to have this. And because my entire plot is on this kind of, this like hook, right? And then like, sometimes I would like, even if players were having a bad time, I was like, well, this is what I planned, so we're gonna finish this up. Like, kind of concept. Like, even if this fight isn't great, we're gonna do the whole fight. And then I literally changed my entire plan at the end of episode 4 because I was like, you're excited about this, I'm excited about this, let's just do this. And so that, I think, is that is when I started creating weird NPCs. That is when I started creating an entire DMV for getting into a city. Like, that is when things got weird.
It definitely was when things got weird.
Yeah.
But I will point out that your like first half of season 1 NPCs were not exactly normal.
I also made the mistake of, thank you, I made the mistake of introducing 5 new characters an episode.
That was a lot of characters.
Because you can't let players grow if you are like, and then this character, and then this character, and then this character. That's why I think at the end I was doing good of like, there's the full team, they're dead.
They're dead.
They're dead now. You killed one of them. They're in the nap zone. Oh, no, they're important in season 2. Did you remember? I didn't remember their name. Let's go. So I think with the thought process of we're making something together and it's going to be messy. I think
Yeah.
that's season 2 and 3. Because, like, some GMs are like, this is the rules and we're always going to perfectly be in character and it's going to work. And that kind of story is elegant and lovely and it's so good. And then sometimes you got to reach into the mud and you squish it into a thing and then that's also art.
And I love it. No, I think that's a really cool takeaway that your style has shifted more into something that is more responsive and more reactive. Like your
Yeah.
perspective of like we're creating this mess together is a very unique and also approach. It is also art. Yes, it is art.
And I think that's where like I and then starting season 2, I was like, you're gonna meet this person and they're gonna give you this clue, and you're gonna meet this person and you're gonna give them this clue. And then this is the fight. Because, like, let's be real, it is so hard to fight.
OPA is a difficult system to work in for fighting.
And creating fight, like, that is the thing that, like, GMs, like, having a, like, this is a random fight that I can throw in. That is so helpful. Because for me, setting up blocks for fighting and NPCs is the hardest. Mm-hmm. And by the end, I could fuss it. It's kind of the same thing of, like, they're good at these things, they're bad at this thing, here's the basic dice.
Yeah. That is the strategy that I would get to with a lot of things. I think there were a bunch of other questions, so feel free if we haven't addressed a question to just ask it again.
Yeah.
Pumpkin, how do you like to create characters?
Oh.
Do you build them like a GM-controlled PC or around concepts or something else entirely? So what's your approach? And I imagine this might be different based on the system that you're working in.
So, anime-focused. Whenever I created a character, I was like, what is the one trait that makes them different? And what is the one trait that makes them a waifu? So that is how I made every NPC. So, for example, Priscilla.
I didn't know that, and I love it.
Priscilla.
They're all waifus.
Yeah. Priscilla was a vampire. And I was like, great, she's cool, I love her. What makes her a waifu? I'm like, well, she could be cold and distant, but she loves her bird girlfriend. Waifu. So that is what I did with every single NPC. The Minotaur, right? I was like, what makes them rememberable? I'm like, they're definitely a Minotaur. Like, they're tough.
What's a waifu?
Oh, this is a good question. In anime, a waifu is like a character you really, really, really like. Sometimes it's like a character where you're like, everything about what I see as fantastic is in this character. Like, my waifu is Bayonetta, for so many reasons, because she's, like, tough, and she's sexual in, like, I own it way, and she has glasses, and the game she's in is fantastic, and, like, there's so much in that, and there is, we can we don't really need to talk about how there are dangerous levels of waifuism when you start directing that towards real people, but like that kind of focus. Yeah. Your fave girl, like you'll have 16 figures of them and like figures of them and like all that.
Yeah.
So
why they're your waifu is one of the questions, or why what makes them a waifu?
What makes them a waifu? And it might not not ring with every person. Like, but there has to be something that makes them, unique and lovable. So if you make,
do you do that even for villains?
Yeah.
What makes October Sky a waifu?
I think for me, October Sky's drive to feel like her reality matters. No matter what happened, the world was cruel to her because...
Of course she does. It's true. You do love your villains.
The world was cruel with her because no matter, after everything she did, she still lost everything she fought for. And so that drive and that passion to keep going is what made her a waifu. Also, the horror aspect. Like, that's what made her unique. She technically didn't exist, so she would spike in and out of reality. Her literal willpower is what kept her here.
She had that underdog appeal.
Yeah.
I like that. That is such a lovely way of creating a villain. What makes them unique, or a character, what makes them unique and what makes them a waifu. From a mechanics perspective, how do you approach creating characters? Because sometimes those two things can be related and sometimes they're very different. I don't know how you made out with your hand, but
I definitely didn't want to. Oh, you know what it was? I spilled coffee and I went like this. So, can you repeat the question?
So we talked. I think what you described sounds a lot like a personality, like how you create the core of these characters. Do you approach them? How do you approach the kind of mechanical side to the characters if they need that?
I think when you make an NPC, it's one of two reasons. One, the players want to make an NPC, or two, you want to push the plot forward. Examples. I made a full team of villains to push the plot forward. You needed to meet Bastion and Priscilla and the October Sky to have a plot. Alternatively, NPC created NPCs like Kesa. Kesa was a character that we're like, we all said this idea and now it's real. Excited Chito. Upset guard at the DMV was something that you guys kind of did an idea and we were like, let's do it. Let's make this a thing. Really old grandparents who didn't understand children but hated the environment. That was an NPC that was created because you gave me this thing. Like, that is... So there's two kinds of NPCs. NPCs that are purely for character purpose, I often don't think of mechanically. Because you don't need it. You can have a character that is 100% broken because they don't need to really function in the world. Because, like Kyle. I think my biggest mistake is that I made Kyle an actual function. Because Marcus's Kyle was just a joke. Like, it was a joke character that I made a real thing, which I shouldn't have. I should have just let it be the NPC joke character. It was Kyle, right? What was the name of the hand?
Yeah, that was Kyle.
Okay, cool.
And see, I think that's interesting because I think there was some value in making it mechanical, but it felt like
it felt
from
like
my
shackles.
side of the table, it felt like Marcus didn't understand the mechanics of the character. He didn't understand what he could or could not do with it.
And I think that's a lot of it too. Is when you're like, now there's rules, and if you didn't really understand those rules, it is shackles. Where a lot of times rules are really created to be like, now you can do so much with it, and instead it was like, this is now a small space that I could live in.
That being said, he also didn't understand how vigor works.
Yeah, vigorous
worked, and it was like, yes, you can use vigorous, but not in the way you think.
I like to think of that analogy of rules are a box, a wooden crate. You can either turn it over so its top is down and you have to live in that box, or you can flip the box over and you can stand on top of it. Those are the two ways rules work. If you understand rules, you can stand on top of them. If you don't understand rules, you have to live in that small space.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. I think it's interesting because like I find there's some players that I have to say no to more often than others. And I think Marcus does sometimes fall into that category. But explaining rules is a really difficult thing, and teaching people how to play a game is something that some people struggle with more than other people.
I explain rules very, very different than you explain rules. rules, and I think both of us explaining rules together makes sense for all people. Because you're very mechanical wise,
Yes.
and I'm very feely wise.
Yeah.
Like this makes sense because emotions.
Yeah.
Like I just explained rules with a box. Like
Yeah, whereas I, like, my go-to strategy, I think when Marcus came onto Leviathan, and I've had other people come on, like, I'm like, all right, this is your character sheet. When you want to do this, this is what you're going to look at. When you want to do this, this is what you're going to look at. And I'll, like, go through the entire sheet and explain it that way. So that people can find everything that they need to find on their sheet, and I explain how everything works. So I'm like, here's your core mechanic, this is how you use your sheet.
And I think looking back, my way probably didn't work as well. But my way was like, what do you want to be good at? And I wrote that down. I was like, great. Whenever you want to do something, just ask me. I know your sheet. Like,
Yeah.
And that works for one setting. But then that's the whole you're being crushed by your rules because you don't know all the things you can do.
Yeah.
And there was a point where you're like, I'm gonna make my rule sheet, and I was like, have fun. Like you, I knew you could handle it, and I also knew that you would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because you min-maxed hard.
You
You did. You were like, I'm sorry, let me stop time.
Well, no, what it was is I couldn't actually stop time, but what I could do is I could give myself an extra action without penalty.
Right.
So I could stab someone twice in one turn.
I think we also figured that by the end you could do 2 or 3 actions without
I could
penalty.
do 3 actions without penalty.
And that made sense. Like, OVA's not built well for growth. And
Yeah.
that is something that we can talk about if you want, but yeah that's...
A lot of systems aren't built well for increasing skills. No, and I didn't intentionally min-max, but no one else was good at fighting, so I was like, I guess I kind of have to be fighting.
We had 2... What is it called? Pacifists.
Yeah, we had 2 pacifists, so I was
Which
like...
both, I was like, you're
"Fuck it,
attacking.
I'm good at stabbing.
And you could tell by the end of, I mean, throughout High School L, I still had the, like, here's a new mechanic. Like, and also, but season 2, 3 had much less new mechanics and a lot more we created NPCs together to create. And, like, I think that worked for our story.
But I think there's a lot to understanding, like, how your players feel about their understanding of a set of rules. And I keep coming across stuff because I think I actually realized something that Cypher probably told me a thing that I need to go double check, but I'm pretty sure it gave me the answer to a question that I've had for a long time, which is whether or not you need to roll to use an ability. And I think it tells you if it says action, then you have to roll. If it's an enabler, then you don't have to roll. And I kept being like, oh, I don't know, maybe because I was always waiting for it to specify in the text. And no.
But I think that's
anything that's an action, you have to roll and you have to beat the difficulty. And if it's against an NPC, you beat the NPC's level.
You're right, because enabler means I just get a bonus 1 in damage, and that's an enabler skill, which means it disapplies.
Enabler means it always happens, you don't have to roll, it just gives you a bonus. An action means you have to roll against something. I'm pretty sure that's correct, and now I need to go check the Cypher book. So I feel like with this system,
well, this is your first time playing it, and
it's my first time playing it. We're doing a lot of, like, kind of learning as we go.
Which is fine, because we're okay with that.
Yeah. But it's also an interesting system. Like, Cypher in particular doesn't quite know how mechanical it wants to be.
I love this level of mechanical. I think I have a lot of struggle with mechanical games now that I've done 4th edition, and then I tried to do 3.5, and I created a 3.5 character sheet, and I was like, I do not see value in this portion. I did not find the looking at rules and trying to break that down as value.
Yeah.
But what Cypher does is it's like, what do you feel? Like, instead of thinking, what can you do, it's, do you want to do this? Then this is who you are. And I think that makes more sense for me. Instead of thinking, building up the blocks for what you do, it tells you what you do and then builds the blocks afterwards.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
definitely does part of that. I think it's a great character creation system.
It really is. I love Cypher, and like I wonder how much I'd love Cypher if it didn't have the system where it bounces between worlds.
It's the Strange is my favorite. I love the setting. Yeah. It's such a fun setting to play in. I have been enjoying it so much because it's got enough grounding, but it's still loosey-goosey enough.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that I would definitely say, this is like my compliment to the system, is when they write these setting resources, they have a lot of sections where they just write things that are like, here are questions that people have about this one
Yeah.
particular thing. This is the little bit that people know, and here are all of the things that they're asking about. Like, here are the things that they could do. And it's such, like, good fodder for plot hooks in a way that you don't have to come up with everything on your own.
And it's really interesting when character, like, this book in particular does a lot more about roleplay assistance than most books do. And I thought that was a really fascinating thing. Like, I feel like my goodest skill is being able to roleplay out of a situation and being able to roleplay
Yeah.
into one.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating that, like, there were so much sections about, like, here are 6 ideas about why you would be a graceful vector. And I was like, oh, I like it.
Yeah, yeah. There's some fun parts about how they give you that filler. I will say, yeah, with D&D it's an interesting thing, like, because I've played the same class multiple times, and it doesn't feel like I'm playing something different. Like, playing a druid feels the same as playing the other druid that I played.
And
Until you get to really high levels where you've actually had a bunch of skills that you can pick from, but from, like, level 1 through 5, like, there's not a lot to pick from. You're like, cool, this is the same set of abilities that I had as my last character. What makes this character different? I guess they're a halfling instead of a human?
you get, like, you're like base but more. Like,
Yeah.
You know. And I think a lot of what D&D feels a lot like an MMO. And not in a bad way, like in a good way too. Because it's easy to get into, and then it slowly builds different concepts, right?
Yeah.
That's the D&D
Yeah.
way. And a lot with MMOs, like I start like 14, I wanted a stick, I became a lancer, it was very cool, right? That's
Yeah.
what D&D does. Like eventually, you start off just poking, and then by the end you're like, where were you? You jumped for 2 turns. Like that's where you were at. You were in the air. You somehow did not dodge that fireball though.
Just poking.
There's a big orange circle around you. Just don't be in it, Claudia. Don't be in the orange circle.
Sorry.
I had to stop playing Final Fantasy 14 because I could not dodge orange circles.
Yeah. I will say, so like Shadowrun, this is a system we are both very, very familiar with in different ways. Shadowrun is exceedingly complex in terms of its rules.
But I also got away with that by being like, I'm gonna be a street samurai. Everyone's got to know combat skills. I don't need to know magic or hacking
So my main request when we were starting the Corporate Sins game, I looked at everyone and I was like, I need you to learn the rules for your character. Like, if I looked at Dan, I was like, you need to learn the rules for magic. And, like, you need to learn the rules for ranged combat.
Right, and I
like,
did. I did learn them. And we got better at them over
Yeah.
time because we would both think a different thing about this.
Yeah.
Like, I would think, oh, it works like this. And you'd think, like, oh, it works like this. And then we work together. Yes, Street Samurais are great. They're really
Yeah.
fun. I think our archetypes are really good ways to explain the different characters we play. Like, Cheryl's... Decker was like, this is what a Decker is. Like, there's other ways.
They were very archetypal characters. But, like, it helped a lot because you guys knew a good chunk of that set of rules, and I could kind of have a reasonable knowledge of all of the rules. And between the 2 sets of knowledges, we would be able to pretty much get through every situation.
But just don't watch episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1 was kind of its own trash fire.
But that was because we were
It was
like...
a glorious trash
like,
fire.
so many different things. Like, Dan's kid was like, I don't know how to start magic. And so he went to the bathroom. And, like, I was like...
He was unprepared.
And I was like, I don't know who... Because I think this is the first time I was with improvers. And I was like, I'm going to take any reach out. Like, Cheryl's kid was like, let's flirt. I was like, yeah, Fang's going to flirt. Like, for so much of that show, I was like, is Fang going to, like...
Who will Fang end
Who
up
will
with?
Fang like?
I would not have called it being Cromwell at the beginning. I really wouldn't have, but I love that it happened.
I definitely did halfway through. I was like, yeah, it's both. It's both.
Yeah. This problem, I know how to solve it. Shing!
I'm still kind of miffed that me cutting down the security camera didn't stop from getting caught. Like, it was so good. I rolled so high, and I cut it down, and you were still like, and the alarm goes off. And I'm like, excuse me, I did the best I could in that situation. I did the best I could. What did you want to do? Hack it? That's not what I do. Shoot it? No, it's too loud.
I mean, you did hacking, but...
I feel like we didn't talk a lot about how, like, because people know our backstory, right? You came back, you were like, so they were like, we need improvers to run a show, and you're like, I've run this show before.
Yeah, and they're
this
like,
game.
good, you're the GM now. Fuck.
And everyone was like, yes, you're
Like,
there.
we need another player. Claudia!
Right, and that's because somebody dropped out, and I think they would have been great for it.
I think so too. Unfortunately, we've never managed to get her on any shows. Like, I've been hoping to get her on
Yeah.
shows here or something else, but she's just a very busy person. So she was like, yeah, I can do it, and she couldn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, excellent, I have a player for us.
Right. Which I got in there and I was like, this is fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah, so other questions about, like, your style of GMing. Your approach to creating things, I think you are more thorough in your note-taking. Like,
Right. And that is, I think, so... Oh, boy. So, we talk a lot about our notebooks. So,
Yeah.
I wish I brought one for an example.
okay, I didn't bring mine either.
Because how I figured it out episode, I think this third season, because season 1, it was read the rules, and this is including how I did OVA. Read the rules, okay? Write them down. Type them up. Now do the storyline. Write out the storyline. Put it down. Rewrite the storyline, but better. Lots of things crossed out. Lots of things in there, and I'm not talking just visual. I'm talking all different kinds of things. What actions you want them to do, where you want the plot to go, and then always. So constant, just a mesh of all the ideas. And then the second draft was like, this is where I can actually go down, and then in order, and then the show you only use about half of it because the second writing down is where you memorize it, right? And so that works if you have 6 hours a show. Which, when I was doing one every 4 months, it was great. But then you don't have that time. And so that's when I got a little bit better. I would I learned at the last season, I would always write down the summary. Because the summary, I GM...
Also, Casey's not wrong. Notebooks, lots of graph paper.
Yeah.
I like dot paper now, I think.
I do too, it's harder to find.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more, but there's lots of graph paper. Do I have notes to share? I could probably find them. I think that the thing that I lack as a GM, not throwing shade, but is consistency in in knowledge of the world. I will because of the way I am, because I'm constantly moving quick. Things that were exactly in place in episode 1 might not be in place in episode 4, like accents, or first names, or locations, that kind of thing. So that's why I probably hesitant to share notes, because they might be different.
Yeah, I think that's an important caveat too. My notes are, I try and put down in my notes so that I can remember, anytime things might go differently. So, if something didn't happen, I'll try and cross it out. So be like, we never got into this fight.
Yeah.
I'll cross it down and then, write what actually happened. So I try and make notes. But my notes have become much, much more bare-boned. And what I try and focus on is, what were the NPCs doing? And that might be the NPC villainous organization. And that might be... Laura, what did Laura do is most of my notes from this previous session, and then I'll be like, here's a landmark, and then it's this is the objective, here are possible complications to the objective.
Okay. And that makes sense. And you've also started doing this thing with the fill chart, which I think is really great for danger. Of being you have, till it winds up and then bad things happen. And I think...
Weirdly enough, I was talking about how that came out of 4th edition skill check challenges. Because remember, you would have to do 3 successes before 2 failures. That was a thing, and that was just a progress clock. That's all it was. It was just your clock had to fill in before their clock.
Right, but I like the idea of the danger clock, where you use in the library. There's a certain amount of bad things. When all those bad things happen, you're done.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, my caveat to my style, is that I was lucky that I GM'd a way of that there are multiple time realities, so I don't have to be exact all the time. Right, that was my brilliant aha moment. I would recommend something. I think at the end of the episode, if you can, write down what you want to do at the beginning of next. That really helped me, because if your plans change, you still need to be able to pick up where you're at. So, for example, I dropped 3 puzzles in the last season, and I was like, well, things have changed, so this. And so I had to I cross things out, but then I would circle things that worked.
So for those who don't know, clocks are a system. They're from Blades in the Dark, but I don't think that's where they're from originally. I'm not sure where John Harper pulled it from. But clocks are basically, checkboxes, whatever visual system you prefer.
A progress
but
bar.
It's a progress bar. It's a bar or boxes or a circle split into a certain number of sections. And it's basically, you have triggering conditions that say, if this happens, fill in a segment. When all segments are filled, X happens. So a great example was a library, which was if they do this, or this, like if they mess up with any of the order of books, if they damage anything, if they make too much noise, then I fill in a segment. When all segments are filled up, they get attacked by a librarian. And then I start a second clock. And if the second one gets filled in, then they get attacked by 2 librarians, right? Like, so it becomes a progress clock, so you keep track of it. You can also do it of, like, every time they fail, you mark in a segment. So I actually started using a variation on that in, they did all of those things in the space of, like, 2 minutes.
We were very bad at knowing how to act in libraries.
I loved it. It's, danger bingo.
Right, or you could think of it as a success, like with hacking in Shadowrun, you had to get like 5 successes in an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
So you can also do it as a success system. So like sometimes they'll be like this door is really complicated, so you need to succeed 3 times on unlocking the door for it to unlock. I used it in Shadowrun, but see, I like doing counterclocks. I like saying this one fills in when you succeed, this one fills in when you fail. And normally the success one needs more than the failure one. So with like Shadowrun, it would be to hack into the system, you need 2 successes, but if you fail 3 times before you get those 2 successes,
it's out.
You alert security.
And that's a good way to do it. Like,
no, sometimes they're only interesting is if it's a task they have to repeat on several times, or it'd be like challenge 1 and challenge 2, and you have to succeed at challenge 1 and challenge 2, but every time you fail, I still fill in a different segment.
Right.
So it'd be like 1 you have to defuse the bomb, 1 you have to unlock the door.
Have you talked about you don't make people roll if you want them to be successful?
Yeah, that's just that statement.
Yeah, like I realized that season 4, I was like, I don't care what you roll, you did it. Congratulations. Like, I realized there was a certain point, and this is looking at what kind of system you want to run. Mm-hmm. If you want it to be more, like, crunchy, you're going to want more rolls. But, like, I was like, yeah, it happens. Like, I want you to bug this person. I want, and if both of you want it, and it furthers the story, why are you not doing that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't let the rules be your box. Make the rule be your box.
There's also a related piece to that, which is if there's no consequence for failure, there's no point in rolling.
Yeah.
That's like, if failure just means nothing happens, then, which is why, so like an example in last night's World Beyond, I didn't have you guys roll for the 3rd time, because you were going to get to the room, and at that point I was like, you met 2 vampires, the 3rd time you're going to run into Dracula. So like, there's no consequence for failing, you're going to get there, or you're not going to get there, but like, eventually you'll arrive. So
that's a good one, Troopers. Like, crunchy systems, but when the rolls, they matter, right?
Yeah.
And like, you could look at the way I taught OVA. When you're in the beginning, when you're so fresh to a system, you're like, I'm going to follow it to a T. And then by the end, you're like, I know what I want. I know what to
I make the system work for me.
Yeah.
I don't work for the system.
And there's so much to that rule set, right? There's so much to making your own version of the game.
Mm-hmm. And like, I know the version of Shadowrun that we played was definitely not rules as written Shadowrun by the end of it. Both intentionally
We had
and
a tank!
Yeah, there were reasons why I had to do stuff like that.
But like, that's also fun. We had a tank! Like, again, it's make waifus out of your moments.
Make waifus out of your moments. That is Claudia's
That's my way of GMing. Like,
GMing lesson. I love it.
It's a good way to think about character creation, because why make a character that is, unless their entire thing is they're bland, like, why make a character that is not going to be, like, remarkable.
I want to embroider that on a pillow. Make waifus out of all of your moments. Yeah, I like the way that you approach NPCs. I think I don't flesh out the personality of an NPC often until they interact with the players.
You do have the yes, no, maybe dice.
I do have a yes, no die. But I don't, like, realistically, like, unless they're a prominent NPC. So, like, someone like Laura, I've thought about her personality.
Which is great.
Someone like, who's an example of someone you met?
My favorite character in Worlds Beyond currently is there's a gremlin who sold a cipher to Dale and
Sure.
like, these are important to me. And he just said that about all the items because it was expensive. And like, I was like, I understand that. My garbage is also treasure. And like, I drew a picture 3 times in my notebook. He's all pointed. He's like, mine.
So there are some characters that I just made. There are a lot of characters I make up on
Right.
the spot. I have a very small number of planned
I
characters.
also do that too. Like, that's kind of, you have to do that.
So I think last night's episode, or like let's go back to the first episode in Transylvania.
Yeah.
I didn't plan the bartender. I didn't know who the bartender was going to be until you talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
I knew you were going to have to talk to someone in the town.
And Timmy was a great
and
choice.
it was Tim. It was Timmy. Is there a specific reason why Laura felt like a non?
I'm gonna get a jacket.
no,
I'll be right back.
not intentionally. I think that was an interesting observation. I wasn't perceiving that. I think it's because they're both reserved female characters.
Right.
Laura it was also interesting because we didn't see the flirty Anon, and like flirty Anon is a key portion of her personality that Laura does not have. They're reserved people, partially because Laura has a lot of secrets that she's
keeping them in.
she doesn't know what to
keeping
do
them
with. But we didn't get to see the mad scientist part of her
Right.
very much yet. We saw like a little bit of it when she was talking about things, but I promise you there is more to that.
No, you wouldn't create a smarty character and then not let them be smart.
Yeah, no. So no, I think it's just they have they both present a very a polished exterior.
Yeah. But also, like, it's okay if characters are alike. I think that's fine. I think what makes them different does kind of seem cool.
Yeah, but I don't. Sometimes I'll just write down like the captain from Arden. I don't think I planned her.
Really?
No, I had planned for you guys to take a ship, and I don't even think I'd planned for it to be Storm's Lament. It was this whole conversation they were having about the specific ship that they're looking for. I was like, no, you have to take the crappy looking ship.
Yeah.
And so then I started building all of that around there. So like I hadn't planned the personality of the captain, and so then I just pulled that one. I was like, this is who the captain's gonna be. I need to go back at my notes and double check, but I'm pretty sure the captain, I had not planned her until they started interacting with different people on different ships, and I wanted to make it more challenging for them. I wanted to give them something contrary to what they wanted.
Which is totally fine. Like, you need to work in opposition sometimes to make a story.
Yeah.
But, like, I think you still came, like, even with that character, you're like, I want this character to be this, and this.
Yeah.
You still, like,
Yeah.
every
I
NPC
pull
needs
more-
to
I-
have a sharp spark.
I pull more archetypes, I think.
I do
you
the waifu method, which is what is the one thing, and like sometimes that one thing you kind of figured out along the way when you just make weird noises from your mouth, and then you're like, yes, that is what this character is.
I wanted to name the ship Phoenix Down. That's a
That's not as
problematic
good.
name. But like I think it's characters like where you sort of have to, you either make them on the spot or you kind of come up with them. Like I knew there was going to be a captain. Like I knew you were going to interact with the captain of a ship. I didn't know who that captain was going to be, and until I knew what type of ship you guys were going to be on. And sometimes I've like created a name, but like the personality for them doesn't emerge until you begin interacting with the players.
That's why season zeros are so important, because I made Fang, and Fang was supposed to be super, super dark, and then it didn't happen.
She was so dark.
Kiko was supposed to be a order Muppet.
Yep. You're like, I'm gonna play an order.
Pine is more of an order Muppet.
Pine is actually pretty close to being an order Muppet.
The closest I can do. Like, there's still the fish out. Like, I still ring a bell very loudly.
I love the fish out of water. But you were an order Muppet, but that's the fish out of water, and it's a beautiful dichotomy. So for those who don't know, there's and we'll wrap up in like a couple minutes. There is because there's no wind down tonight. There's a theory, I think, I don't know who, one of my friends, someone from improv that I know came up with this, or at least popularized it, which is that everyone is either an order Muppet or a chaos Muppet. And a good example is Kermit the Frog is an order Muppet, and Fozzie the Bear is a chaos Muppet.
They both, no one's bad. It's just what they do.
Yeah, it's just what they do. Gonzo is a chaos Muppet, Miss Piggy is a chaos Muppet. It's more chaos Muppets typically than
Because
order
that's
Muppets.
what makes a show.
The
Eagle is
Eagle's an order Muppet. There's some other ones. I think the little rat might be an order Muppet. I'm not sure.
I think so. I think the scientists are order Muppets.
Yeah.
And it's not. One of them might be.
One of them might be.
But then there's also there's those like gray areas. Oh, Chaos Muppets.
They're definitely Chaos Muppets. Rizzo. So that's like the theory. So then we're describing characters as Order Muppets versus Chaos Muppets, and like Kika, Chaos Muppet.
'Cause, like,
but
trouble.
you plan to play her as an Order Muppet.
I was like, she's gonna be older and she's gonna be like more of that kind of like I'm a good engineer, and she was a good engineer, but also often by accident.
Yeah. Ziana, Order Muppet.
Super Order Muppet.
Oksana, Chaos Muppet.
And I think it's interesting because I think in real life I'm more of an Order Muppet.
You totally are.
And
in real life, we're both Order Muppets in
Yeah.
real life.
And then as soon as I get to a character, I'm like, no, what would be the most fun?
Yeah. Beaker's the Order Muppet, Bunsen's the Chaos
There
Muppet.
we go.
Yeah. But it's like a very broad strokes you can kind of paint your characters in.
And I think it's a little bit better than the chaotic neutral versus chaotic lawful, because like everyone's got their own personal drive, their own personal reason why they do things, even if it's not clear. And so that's why I think chaotic versus or chaos Muppet versus lawful Muppet kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And it's not specifically about like, it's not about an alignment. It's not about good or evil.
No.
It's just about, like, are they the character that tends to cause trouble, or are they the character that tends to clean up trouble?
And I think Kika's the worst one I've ever had. Like, I think Kika...
She got worse.
I think she got worse because I was like, I could fix it. I think that's why I thought. I was like, the other time I was like, I can fix it. I'm so good at these things, I can do it. And that's what gets me in trouble. Whereas Pine, I am always slightly more reserved because my dice are not saying
Weird.
that.
Yeah, you do not have luck right now.
And Kika had a lot of luck. So I could be like, I fell down, and that's why I was like, what do you mean I'm kidnapped? Like, that doesn't happen.
I think you also, Pine is the front line.
Yeah.
Kika was not. So someone would come in and rescue Kika
Yes.
to keep her safe.
Yes.
Pine is the one that just takes the brunt of it.
Which I also think
Especially now that we don't have Jade.
Yeah. But a lot of the damage is my own. Because in this game, they've made gambling health related. Because you use your health to increase your chances. And yeah, that's fair. Listen, it really is. But the fact that like I could pour my health to make sure something hits and I still miss.
And you can still miss. That's rough.
That's
it is
what,
a rough part of the
and
system.
I actually really like that. I think it genuinely puts your character in more danger, which is good for story. I literally had 1 health. Like, my entire character had 1 health.
Yep.
And like, you never... home rules versus stage rules. Can we talk about the rule with
Yeah.
the...
Yeah, so in Shadowrun, it is a very lethal system. And I did a lot of very convoluted and complicated math in the first few episodes to figure out how much I could hurt the characters without killing them, because the thing I didn't want to do was murder a player in the second
After
episode.
after we created our characters,
Yeah.
and after it's
Yeah,
all
it's like,
balanced.
no, I'm not going to murder them in the second episode. Maybe like 6 months in,
Right.
sure, someone can die. 2 weeks in, no. So we had a discussion after that. I was like, how about we do this? If your character ever drops down to no health, you tell me if they're dead.
Yeah, and that was a really good rule for us because we could still be in control and we could still like no one wanted to save their characters forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for how many people volunteered for their character to die at the end of
I think so
Leviathan.
many.
Like I did, Sarah did.
I think everyone volunteered to go on a suicide mission.
Yeah. It is a meat grinder for characters, and so that was and I had my character had the most body in the world. That was never a problem for me, right? But like Janine's character had like 6
Janine's
body.
character was the one that I would think I was the most worried about because she was very, very squishy. And
Oh.
it wasn't that I didn't want them to, because there's also like there's no resurrection in Shadowrun,
No.
but I would be willing to write in a narrative like miracle cure, right? Like you're rushed to the hospital and
You're gonna be in jail,
stabilized, right?
like-
or you're in jail or something like that. Like I think there are narrative write-outs that's not explicitly my character is like super dead.
But that system, and I didn't know how we were gonna do that with our game because if you have three health pools, you have body, you have speed, and you have intelligence. If you lose all 3, you're dead. If you lose 1, it's hard. It is harder to exist. If you lose 2, you can't move. So
Only if one of them's your speed pool.
that's
Technically, it
mostly-
could be your might and intelligence.
it's
Unlikely, but
yeah.
it could be.
And so I was at a point where I was like, I only have 1 intelligence left. How do I convey if I take any more damage that I'm not dead?
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess Pine dies, and
at that point I was so okay. Like I think this is an interesting game where everyone feels comfortable that their story is being told, but we still feel like we can die.
Yeah, and it's a conversation I think that's important to have, and it's also dependent on your rules because it is much less likely in this setting, in this system, that a character is going to end up in that position than in, like, say, Shadowrun.
Oh, because Shadowrun, if you slip up once, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, and that happened to us a couple of times. We got better at traps by the end. That was a fun learning curve because we didn't know that traps existed in Shadowrun.
Yeah.
And then every trap hit us once. We're like, I don't understand. Why? How are we again caught?
Yeah. But yeah, it was. It was definitely, I think, like, that is a conversation that's very important to have, and yeah, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know, because I think in Cypher, again, like, there's magic, there's all of this weird shit. Like, it is entirely possible that you'd be like, I'm dead, and I'd be like, are you though?
Right, like we went to the world of the undead.
You went to the afterlife at one point.
Yeah.
Like, you literally actually couldn't die in that recursion. If you told me you're dead, I would have been like, cool, you respawn in, roll a die this many hours. You would have been separated though. That would have been interesting.
That would have been hard. You'd have to go across the bridge again, or the water, whatever. No, and I think it's all about what you and your players align with.
Yeah.
Like, if you are playing a game that is for fun, and you guys all understand that, like, I don't want anyone to die, I feel like your GM has a right to respect that or want to. And if they don't, then that needs to be explicit.
A lot of that, I think, for me, was a trust that you guys as players would take the moment if it was right.
That's our
that,
improv.
like, more often than not, you would say yes to the fact that your character died than not. And that, like, it would have been the, like, oh, that stray bullet killed me. Okay, maybe not, but, like, the building collapsed and, like,
I hold open the door.
Right? Yeah. So. Yeah. However, we have reached the end of our time here. We went over a little bit, but it's fine.
But we also started late.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We're gonna sign off. Tell you where you can find us next. In the meantime, head over, check out our Seed and Spark campaign. Help us fund the next season of shows so we can continue hanging out in person and making RPGs.
We did talk a lot about GMs, but I think we can do that because we both have done RPGs for so long, and we have grown RPGs in a different way. Like, I can still submit a character backstory, as that essay that I sent you is already there.
Yeah.
For both Kika and Pine.
I loved Kika. That's one of the things that I love. I love that every time, I want to give you this compliment, every time I have made a world, Skywatch, you did this, Leviathan, you did this, Worlds Beyond, you've done this.
Yes.
Like, all 3 times where I've been like, this is open enough world. Here are your choices. You can be from this place that I
Which is
created
cool.
or
They're
is
all
already
cool.
exists, or you can create your own. And she's like, I'm going to be a bat. I'm going to be a tree person.
We did have
I'm going to be from the Republic of Zanzoot.
It was gonna be Sauron, so I'm glad we talked. Like, we do talk about it. We do brainstorm. Like, I needed to learn how holding tools would work as a vet.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that you enrich the world so much that I create, and that's a part of what I love about GMing with you as one of my players, is that you, like, take this opportunity to create something, and because of that, you make the world a better place to be in for a show.
Fiasco would be fun.
yeah.
I would have to ask Dan.
Yeah.
We did the Fiasco one shot that was Cowboys, and I think Fiasco's really good if everyone knows the game beforehand, because we broke a lot of the rules, being like, we're telling a story, and the rules are like, and we're like, nope, the story's told.
happening.
The story's happening. We broke the rules. Because Dan was supposed to get, like, the bad ending, and we're like, no, he gets the okay ending.
Yeah.
Like...
But yeah, you are a delightful player and GM, and I hope you know that. And it's not just because you trigger all of the traps.
No. I also... I will know that it's time to take upon the stage. I can almost cry on command. Almost. I'm this close to
I've
reaching.
ever had to do that in an improv show.
No, but all your improv shows were also like, now kiss!
There was a lot of smooching in most of my improv shows.
Well, you
Thanks,
also-
Janine.
Was she the one who did the writer murder mystery?
No, that was Tony.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, that one was Now Kiss. No, Janine did Doctor Who. That was also Now Kiss.
That was also now kiss.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
You know what people like?
Smooching.
Kissing.
Smooching. It's on all of the audition forms for Seattle Experimental. Are you
Really?
okay with, like, you may have to do this on stage? Are you okay with it?
That's a good call.
That's good. Yeah.
I've never auditioned for a stage though. I'd like to do that before the world ends, which might be tomorrow and it might be 20 years from now.
Say that, please.
Um,
I hope neither of those are true.
I would like to eventually try out for a stage show.
I believe in you.
I am very physical.
All right, we're really bad at signing off. Who are you? Where can they find you?
Cool. I'm Jackie Dash. You can see it in my name. Underneath there, I don't need to spell for you guys. I got this. And you do Monday Fun Day. So that's usually when I play board game or video games with me and sometimes guests. So for example, Holly, to celebrate her birthday that was in November, we're going to finish Trauma Team, hopefully, on the American holiday. I don't know if it's been spread to other countries yet, like a plague.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
This is a very American holiday.
And I don't know when we're gonna start because I have to talk to her, and we both are gonna be sleepy beings.
But that's to look forward to.
Trauma
You can also find you here on Wednesday nights. doing-
7 p.m. I am Pine Knight, where I made a very complicated series of rules with heartbreak.
MLK Day. So good. I'm so excited. And then also occasionally you can find you on my channel. Sometimes we
Right.
play video games
We
together.
do.
But you also play one of my favorite RPG characters, Big Mac.
That's right. When is that coming back?
Hopefully March.
Good.
After GDC is the actual answer.
Oh yeah, cause Big Mac is, but what if?
I'm Random Tuesday. You can find me here, GMing Worlds Beyond on Wednesday nights. You can find me on the internet, in Twitch, Twitter, all those places, Random Tuesday. Check out our Seed and Spark campaign
Yeah.
here for Geek Space TV. Help us hit that goal, spread the word, share it. The next show on this channel will be Saturday, 3 p.m. Pacific. It is another episode of Night Witches, so don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. I think they're getting in trouble, so...
It's fun getting into trouble.
All right, on that note, we're going to sign off. We're going to see you again soon. Bye!